following program does not necessarily reflect the views, opinions, or policies of the City of Oceanside, its elected officials, KOCT, its board of directors, or staff.
Enjoy Professional Hair Care offers over 30 pH balanced and stable products designed to meet the needs of every hair type and delivers beautiful, healthy hair from start to finish. And just remember to enjoy.
Hi, welcome to the Voice of Oceanside. I'm your host, John Bonosoro. On today's show, we'll talk with two leaders from neighboring cities of Oceanside, San Marcos Mayor Jim Desmond and Vista's Deputy Mayor John Aguilera. Our first guest from the city of San Marcos is Mayor Jim Desmond, who has served on San Marcos City Council since November 2004. Welcome to the Voice of Oceanside, Mayor.
Well, thank you, John. Thanks for having me.
And today we're going to, as sort of an ad hoc thing, call it the Voice of North County, because obviously you're here representing your own city, not Oceanside. Give our viewers a little bit of idea on what your background is, because in local politics, it's not as rigid as it is in national politics where everybody's an attorney or, you know, it's a much more varied background. So what's yours?
Well, I actually came to San Diego area as a Navy seaman, and actually I was in the Navy for 4 years, and then when I got out, I decided to stay here in San Diego. So what I did is, while I was in the Navy, I actually took flying lessons on my own, and then I graduated from San Diego State with a degree in electrical engineering, and I also have my FAA flight instructor licenses at that point in time as well. So I actually was hired by Delta Airlines in 1986, and I've been a pilot for Delta Airlines for the past 29 years. I fly Boeing 767s around the world. Right now I fly between Los Angeles and Tokyo mostly is what I do. I got involved with city politics as a mayor, primarily through volunteering, through different civic organizations within the city. But my background, and then I married my wife, we're 31 years, we got 2 grown children, and enjoy living in San Marcos since 1992.
And where was the original home before you got in the Navy?
In Illinois. Grew up in the cornfields of Illinois and got out of there.
Wow. Well, it's lucky I didn't know about the aviation background, or we'd still be in the green room talking about that for the next 5 hours, and we'd be late for the show. So what was your first step to elected office? Now, you were on at least the council before being mayor. Was that the first step?
Yes, I was on the city council for 2 years before I ran for mayor. But what I tell a lot of students, I get asked this a lot when I go to talk to different classes and school groups, is how do you get to be mayor? And my answer is you volunteer. I mean, I started out volunteering at my kids' elementary school as a parent-teacher organization president. I volunteered at the Boy Scouts. I volunteered to be on the Planning Commission. I volunteered to be on the Chamber of Commerce Board. Then I volunteered to be on the City Council, and my first term I got gutsy and ran for mayor in the middle of my first term and got elected in 2006 and have been there ever since.
Was there a significant single issue that pushed you in that direction?
I didn't have that. I didn't have an axe to grind. I really, at that point in time, actually, San Marcos was fighting over cement plants and Walmarts. And I really thought that we had a lot more opportunity as the education hub of North County. And so I would want to really more focus on the educational institutions that we have in place. And so I guess I didn't really have a single issue other than I thought our focus was wrong, and I'd rather focus on being the educational leader in the region.
That's great. And so what are the major issues now that you face? What are the top 2 or 3 issues?
Well, budget is always number one, is an issue that we face. Infrastructure, aging infrastructure as well. The drought we're having to face as well. And, you know, it's at different times here. We're not really building large communities anymore. A lot of the more communities and things that are underway are more infill projects. And also retail is changing quite a bit, and that's our #1 sales tax generator. So we're struggling. I mean, it's always a budget and trying to make sure we don't spend any more than we take in, and making sure the infrastructure that we have in place stays in good condition, so the future councils, you know, will have a stable foundation to build upon.
When you talk about retail changing, are you talking about the national trend away from big box stores, or is there something unique in San Marcos, or a combination of both?
It's probably a combination of both, but it used to be, I think it made the example, like I grew up, there was a Woolworths in our town. That was the department store, and then everything went out to the malls on the outskirts of cities. Well, now everybody's buying, a lot of people are buying their products online, and so sales tax is the #1 generator of revenue for the cities. Right now, property taxes don't even pay for police and fire. That sales tax is really kind of is the biggest chunk of money. And now with a lot of people doing their shopping online, we have less of that sales tax, and we have less space. We don't really need those big box stores or the space for those big box stores as much as we used to in the past. So we're trying to think ahead and make sure that we've got a tax structure in place to pay for the amenities that the people have been expecting.
Do you sense that people are shopping more locally now?
I think they are. I think there's been a big education push in the last few years from every community to shop locally. But it's really convenient to hit that one click online and to buy something and have it delivered at home. I used to go out and buy computer supplies and things like that and toner and drive to the store. It's easier to have it delivered to your front door. And so unfortunately that hurts local businesses. But I think people are aware of it, but I think online is just so much easier that we have to be ready for that trend and ready when when the critical mass reaches that point to where the big box stores may be obsolete.
Well, certainly you brought up the education hub issue, and certainly there's visible evidence of that. You can't drive by without knowing that. But are you satisfied that is an accomplished fact, or is that a work in progress?
Well, it's always going to be a relationship work in progress between the city and the educational institutions. But I mean, we're really proud. We've got Cal State San Marcos, Palomar College. We've got St. Augustine is there. We've got a new Catholic university, or Christian university. St. Catherine's has just moved in, and so we're recognized as the education hub, particularly here in North County. And to me, it's our biggest and best asset. And I think we still have relationship buildings. We have student issues. We have traffic issues certain times of the day. But people have learned to understand that. And quite frankly, if you're the education hub and then you can keep that talent at home and local, that's what's going to attract businesses and jobs. If you've got that talent locally, what I like to think of as a small microcosm of being in San Marcos, of being the education hub. When you think of Silicon Valley, that's up in around Stanford and Berkeley and places like that. We've got Sorrento Valley, that's around UCSD and that educational center. We got Cal State San Marcos, and if we could create that small talent pool to be here, that's what's going to attract business and jobs to the region.
Of course, business doesn't like traffic. Business needs infrastructure.
Yes.
And you sit on Sandag?
I was on Sandag for 6 years. I'm currently off it. I'm an alternate on Sandag, but I'm very familiar with the efforts along the 78 corridor.
Well, for many years of doing shows here in Oceanside, traffic is never not mentioned. No. And of course, it's Interstate 5 is the big one. Now, in your case, it's 78.
In our case,
so
yes.
What work do you have in progress to prepare for growth?
Well, to prepare for growth, for the 78, we've been working with Sandag. Matter of fact, the 5 mayors along the 78 corridor just met with Gary Gallegos, the manager of Sandag, and we are making sure that the focus is on this 78 corridor. And between the 15 and the 5, it's either end is where the bottlenecks are. Is at the 78 and the 5, and at the 78 and the 15. So we're trying to reduce those bottlenecks at either end. We're trying to get that done first, and trying to get the monies in place for that. We're told, hopefully now by 2025, that those projects might be done, but I heard 2020 4 or 5 years ago. So unfortunately, it keeps slipping, but we're trying to keep that effort on front and center at Sandag to make sure that those dollars are allotted to those 2 different ends of the 78 to try to keep those intersections moving. At the 78 and the 5, there's a traffic light right now, and it's primarily because of the lagoon and the environmental issues to trying to get those ramps down to the 5. At the 15 end, where we get our afternoon back up, we're trying to get HOV lanes from the 78 to connect directly to the 15 south, and trying to alleviate some of the traffic there as well. So there's a few things in the works, and it's definitely on our radar. We did a survey within the city, and the #1 issue within the city has always been traffic. And it's just something we'll never fix, but it's something we can always be trying to manage.
You know, one of the notable differences I've noticed since going to Orange County, particularly in Irvine, is that, particularly because of the student influence, there's a huge influence on non-vehicular transportation, namely the bike lanes and the walking paths. Is that something you're looking at a local level to strengthen that form of transportation?
Yes, we are. And in San Marcos, actually, we've got about 63 miles of trails throughout the city. Unfortunately, they're not all connected at this point in time. But a large portion of them are. So we are focusing definitely more on user-friendly or pedestrian-friendly, bicycle-friendly roads and infrastructure moving forward. And we're trying to even do that with our development, to where do we make sure if we're putting a development like a densely populated area, we want it like right Palomar Station, which is right across from Palomar College. We put that project in place, and it's right next to a sprinter station. It's right next to a bus transit center. It's right next to a freeway interchange. And there's also going to be a bike lane that goes all the way from Escondido to Oceanside along the sprinter track. So we're definitely focusing on less reliance on cars and more closer availability of services and dry cleaners and you know, if you need to go buy milk or go to the bakery or something like that, hopefully you can walk to those kind of entities as opposed to always having to jump in your car.
Well, it would seem that some of the retail trend that you talked about might work to your benefit, because historically it was those two crowded ends of 78 where the shopping malls were.
Yes.
More of them on the western end now than on the eastern, but it's certainly more comfortable to shop locally and not deal with that, no matter what improvements come in the distant future.
That's true, yeah.
Which would be similar for business. Now, I think with education, that list of universities is pretty strong, given the size of the town. When you talk about Cal State, and Palomar is one of the bigger community colleges. Are you satisfied with the rate of business growth and business relocation to your area?
Well, we would always like to attract more businesses to the area. Unfortunately for San Marcos, we don't have the large business parks that our neighboring cities, Vista and Escondido, have, and even Carlsbad or Oceanside. I guess ours is more the focus on the educational aspect, but we would like to, we're always in the hunt for bringing more businesses into the city and having more jobs and employment. I think that's key for any city. But to the education, we'll get back to that real quickly. One of the things on the education, especially within our school district here in San Marcos, is our demographics within the city of San Marcos is pretty much mirrors the state as far as the minorities and everything else. The mix of people within San Marcos pretty much mirrors the state. And our school scores, though, however, mirrors more of the affluent areas of the state. So we've been able to keep up with the Powways and the Del Mars and the more, I guess, affluent areas of our county and the state, but our school scores have kept up. So we try to make sure everyone is educated so that they're ready for jobs, so that those jobs will be attracted. And that's more of our, I guess, our lure is to have that talent pool to bring the jobs locally to San Marcos.
You know, it's really evident from your demeanor and your passion that this job energizes you.
I love it.
But I know some parts are more fun than others. What's the biggest enjoyment you get out of being mayor?
The biggest enjoyment is having a say. I mean, to be able to look around your community and you see how things how things work or how things operate. And if you see something you don't like, you have a voice and you get to change it. And as mayor, you get to lead the meetings as well. So you have, I guess it's more the opportunity that you have to make a positive difference in your area. And I think that's, you know, primarily philosophically, that's what we're all here for, is to make the world a better place. And this is an opportunity to do that. And that's one of the biggest enjoyments I have out of it.
I'm guessing that's the message you give to young people when they talk to you.
My message to young people, I do, but I focus on volunteering with the young people. As a matter of fact, I'm giving a commencement speech tonight to the veterans graduates at Cal State San Marcos, and I followed a similar path with them in that I was in the military first, and then I went to college, and this is the same group of people at graduating tonight from Cal State. So I get to give them that message, but it's primarily volunteer and be engaged in the community.
Well, thanks for joining us here
You're
on
welcome.
The Voice of Oceanside / Voice of North County. We appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed it.
I did. Thank you.
And we hope you enjoyed watching. We're going to take a brief break, and when we come back, we'll talk to the Deputy Mayor from the City of Vista.
When you shop in Oceanside, your tax dollars help fund a variety of city services like police, fire, parks, street maintenance, and library programs. So when you buy your gasoline in Oceanside, you help fuel books, computers, and programs at the Oceanside Public Library. It makes sense to shop Oceanside.
Watch Faith in the Common Good on KOCT. Faith in the Common Good is part of KOCT's North County Talks series. Hosted by Pastor T.S. Harris, Faith in the Common Good is a 30-minute talk show that addresses social issues from a faith-based perspective. Faith and the Common Good, only on KOCT, your community channel.
May God bless you with peace and joy.
Since 1906, our city's safety and security has been provided by the Oceanside Police. Their motto is service with pride, and they demonstrate this each day by building trust and providing quality service to our community. The Oceanside Police Department, committed to protecting our city and ensuring a safe and healthy Oceanside.
Welcome back to this edition of The Voice of Oceanside, and if you've seen our first segment, you know that it's really the voice of North County, this show. Our next guest was elected to the Vista City Council in November 2010, and he has been Deputy Mayor since 2014. Welcome, Deputy Mayor John Aguilera.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
Sure.
Just as I did in our prior segment, I want to remind people that local politics is so much closer to the people, that there's this huge variety in how people get to elected office. So can you tell us your story? How did you start out?
Well, first of all, I was born and raised in Vista, so my family goes many years back into the history of Vista. And I think the biggest thing was that I started having kids. I started having a family. I did move out shortly, you know, got married, got my career going and that, but as soon as we started having kids, we moved back to North County. But as they got older, I wanted to get more involved with what was happening in Vista. And so I found ways to do that. Little League coaching, became the president, got involved with the Planning Commission with the City of Vista, and one thing led to another, and as I saw things that were changing, but maybe not changing the way that I wanted to see them change, I got more and more involved, and eventually I decided that I needed to actually run for an elected office so that I could really steer what happened in our city.
And what was the first office you ran for?
Well, in 2008, I ran for City Council. I was not successful, came very close, but it gave me enough confidence that I could do this again, and ran again successfully in 2010.
Okay, and there's another lesson. Most of the time, the first run is a loss.
Yes.
Because of name recognition issues.
Yeah, I was running against 2 incumbents, and I didn't realize how difficult that would be. My consultant at that time said it's going to be very difficult. I just didn't realize how big a deal that really was, that challenge. But once we got into it, you know, my name, my involvement in community helped me quite a bit. And I felt that the next time if I ran, that would, you know, would just compound on itself. And we did have somebody that retired out of council, so that gave me a great opportunity to get in there, and it made it a lot easier.
I don't want to imply you're a single issue guy, but was there one outstanding issue that pushed you over the edge and said, I need to make a difference in this area, in a specific area?
Well, growing up in the town, I'd seen a lot of changes, and I'd seen that there was changes still going on in our city, many that I felt were very positive, but I felt that our old downtown had not developed as quickly as I wanted it to see. Our South Santa Fe was blighted, run down, empty shops, frankly unsafe and unsightly. And I know that council had been working on that, and it's not as easy as I thought it would be. Once I got elected, you know, you learn things, and but that was probably the biggest thing, is I had seen all these changes from a small town to a big city, and I wanted to really be involved with that and help shape how our city turned out.
I have fond memories of that old downtown because one of my big-time entertainment heroes, Steve Allen, appeared there many years ago.
Oh, okay.
And it was an odd juxtaposition. The
Sure.
town was what you said it was
Right.
in those days, and yet here's the great Steve Allen.
Sure,
So,
yeah.
there can be an upside to being a small town, but growth is inevitable. So
No, I'll tell you real quick. When I first started in my business, I do financial planning, and basically at that time I was just really a salesman. I wasn't really doing financial planning like I thought. But one of my first appointments was going into the old Pito's, which was basically a barn, which is now basically where Caldwell Banker's at and our Sinopolis is at. But you'd walk in, there was goats there was rabbits there was feed there was people coming up to pick up material and that, and I'm walking in with a briefcase and a suit. That was the town I was used to, and but it's changed considerably.
So let's come up to date now. What are the major issues facing Vista now?
Well, the state has taken away redevelopment dollars, so we were right in the process of redeveloping our downtown, and once they swiped that money away, we had to scramble, where are we going to find the money to redevelop our downtown? We're right in the middle of it. We're halfway there, if that. And so what we've done is used our affordable dollars for affordable housing to develop a couple of affordable projects in our downtown area. They're located right next to the Sprinter station and right across from the bus transit station, very close to the freeways, and we feel that this is an ideal location, and it's going to help continue to spur our downtown. And actually we've got a lot of businesses starting to open up in our downtown at this point in time, and I don't want to say they're lining up, but there's certainly a lot of interest in downtown Vista right now because they know we're interested in developing that. Big part of our budget right now is going towards building the infrastructure to make our downtown a viable place where developers will want to come. Last year we spent about $20 million in our infrastructure. This year coming up we're going to spend $65 million in our infrastructure. $63 million of that is going to go just towards sewer and undergrounding utilities and that type of thing in our downtown area. So that should make it very attractive for developers.
That's an interesting comment about it. The two things you mentioned are both underground. At least if they're done right, they are.
Right, right.
And I think that sort of gives redevelopment a bad name sometime because people don't see something happening.
Sure.
Because the early stuff is expensive. The city has to pay 100%.
Right.
Someone may pay to have a line out to a specific building, but they're not going to pay for the street lines.
Right.
So are you running into issues like that where people are getting impatient and you're hearing, are you feeling pressure?
We are, and early on I saw that, and one of the things that I come from a marketing background, so I spoke to staff and the city manager in particular and said, listen, what we need to do is let people know what we're doing. And as simple as put up a sign saying these are your tax dollars at work. And when we're tearing up a street and working on the sewer or undergrounding the utility lines, these are your tax dollars at work. In addition to that, we have a quarterly magazine that goes out, so we try to write articles now explaining some of the projects that are going on, whether it's Paseo Santa Fe, whether it's undergrounding on Hacienda, so that people are aware that this is where their tax dollars are being paid. And the biggest thing we've done lately in the last few years is we're just starting to repave many of the roads. We're slurry sealing the roads, and people are starting to see that. And I think in the last 12 months I have not heard more positive things than our roads. People come up to me and say, thank you for repaving our roads.
That is a big issue, even on a national level. We've never had a president pothole or a government pothole, but we've had senator pothole before from New York. So, when your car's bumping around,
sure,
you sometimes pick up the phone and call that local politician and say what's going on here.
Absolutely. And infrastructure is just a huge thing that's been neglected throughout our country, throughout our state, locally in our county, and I think that people are noticing that. So any improvements, if you can just notify the public and let them know what you're doing, and sometimes it's not seen, as you pointed out, people are more willing to accept that, and they just want to know where their tax dollars are going. And I think I'm a big believer in letting people know, hey, this is where your tax dollars are being spent.
I would imagine that the Sprinter had a major positive effect. Many years of doing shows with with Sandag. I know that they like to see mixed-use development near their stations.
Absolutely. You know, the Sprinter was probably one of the most controversial projects in North County when it first came in. There's a lot of people even today that still don't like the Sprinter. And one of the reasons I got involved on the NCTD board was because I wanted to find out more about Sprinter, buses, how does this stuff work? And the more I get involved, the more important I see that the Sprinter, the role that the Sprinter is going to play in North County. And right now, you know, the North County cities are banding together to bring businesses here to the 78 through the Innovate 78. In addition to that, it is spurring some of this affordable housing and mixed-use projects, and that's the thing that Sandag is really pushing. Is we would like to see projects more dense projects being built by the Sprinter line, by the rail lines, by the highways, so that we can preserve open land. And right now, the Sandag has talked about the fact that we're going to probably be preserving 55% of the open land in San Diego County versus probably what was 30% just 25 years ago in 1990. So this more dense development, you know, centering people on the corridors, is allowing for the suburban areas to stay open and preserving more land. So people aren't aware of that. You know, they just see high rises or more dense, you know, development. But really the idea is to center it in smaller areas so that we can preserve more open lands.
Well, you know, that is an interesting approach. I mean, the city I can think of with the most effective transportation is New York, and it's the densest. And you can get anywhere there really quick.
Sure.
And that's impossible to do when you're spread out. So you've effectively, I think, characterized the biggest growth challenge, which is common to Oceanside and other North County cities, of moving people. What's the biggest success you think Vista's had?
Well, I think our businesses have been very successful. Our business park is 95% full. So that's one of the reasons we're working with other cities is, you know, some of our companies are becoming very successful, so they're looking for new places to go. Well, we don't want them to go out of state, out of the county. We want them to stay there in the 78 corridor, because many of the people that live in Vista work at those businesses. So it would be nice for them, if they're not going to be in Vista, that they're at Carlsbad or in San Marcos or Oceanside, so that those families stay in Vista and still have a short commute. That's helpful for the entire region if we can cut commutes down. The other part of Vista's success is our breweries. We have a dozen breweries in our city, and probably the most per capita in the nation. So that's been a very successful thing for us, and those are some of the businesses that are coming to our downtown. We have Mother Earth, we have the Belching Beaver, Wavelength. These are brew pubs in our city that are bringing people to our downtown. I mean, you go to Vista downtown on a Friday evening, the parking lots are full and people are walking around, and I still am amazed that we drive through town and parking lots are full with people, and people are coming from other towns to the city of Vista.
Well, John, we're out of time, believe it or not, and strangely enough, we probably would have more to talk about after you said we have more breweries downtown than any other city. Don't be surprised if it gets more crowded when the show airs.
Well, I would say that I invite you to have a beer downtown at Mother Earth with me.
All right, let's go. Thanks for joining us. I hope you enjoyed it.
Absolutely, I did. Thank you.
And I hope you enjoyed watching this edition of The Voice of Oceanside. Today's show is a great example of why KOCT is your North Community channel. The best way to tune into your North County community and the issues and topics that affect you is to stay tuned to KOCT. And remember, you can watch all of our local programming as video on demand by going to KOCT.org. And a good way to support local independent media is to become a friend of KOCT. Thanks for watching.
Enjoy Professional Hair Care offers over 30 pH balanced and stable products designed to meet the needs of every hair type and delivers beautiful, healthy hair from start to finish. And just remember to enjoy.